All right.
Got it in right before the recording started.
Good evening, folks. The time is now 5 o'clock. Muted. On April 17th, 2023, and it's time to call the Public Safety Committee meeting to order. Ms. Patterson, will you please note attendance for the record? Yes. Thank you. At this time, we typically ask whether there are any members of the public who would like to speak to an item that is not on the agenda. To the extent that members of the public would like to address a specific item or items that are on the agenda, we'd ask that you hold your comment until we reach the relevant item. So are there any folks here today who'd like to speak to a matter that is not on the agenda? All right, seeing none. In City Council, there are some members of the public, but no one has indicated that they would like to speak. And I will now check online as well. It's like the folks online are here with the city, and I do not see any raised hands. So at this point, we'll go ahead and move forward to the approval of the minutes. Committee members, do you have any concerns with the minutes from April 3rd, 2023?
None.
None?
Thank you.
All right. In that case, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All right. In that case, it passes. So moving forward, having a little bit of a trouble with my computer at the moment. Apologies. We'll go ahead and move on to the agenda bills. Or actually, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
You want to move this one and I'll second it. So moved.
Second.
All right. And it passes. All right. So moving on, the agenda bills. The first is AB 23050. This is the Memorandum of Understanding with the Snoqualmie Valley School District, number 410 for School Resource Officer Program. And this is an agenda bill that requests the approval of an updated Memorandum of Understanding with the Snoqualmie Valley School District for the School Resource Officer Program. This was originally discussed at the April 3rd Public Safety Committee meeting order, discussed at council, and then it reverted back to public safety for more consideration. City Attorney Sturbank.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, so this, as you just indicated, the item was referred back to the committee for further discussion about whether there might be more appropriate language included in the MOU to reflect a district obligation to support the SRO in performance of the duties. And I think along with that concern that it was articulated by Councilmember Benson, that the Mayor Pro Tem also indicated a desire for some language to confirm that the district would provide written performance evaluation feedback for the SRO. I think the existing language just referred to just feedback in general, and also some clarification around resolution of the grievances. So the primary issue, however, being district support. And so given the short turnaround time, we prepared some draft language, an additional article, Roman numeral 2-A, entitled District Obligations, that generally states that the district and its employees will support the SRO in performance of the SRO duties and the SRO program, and then itemizes some particular things, some of which are carryover items from the existing ILA related to provision of an office, a desk, a phone, police parking space, things of that nature, but also then addressing non-equipment support in terms of making district staff available for interviews and to provide information, whether it's related to specific investigative duties that the SRO might be performing or otherwise, and then also articulating an affirmative obligation for district staff to provide information concerning anyone on school grounds possessing unlawful drugs or weapons or engaging in unlawful activity. Given the timing, we prepared that language, put it in the packet, and were later able to have some communication with district attorneys and staff, and the district indicated they were supportive of that language. So I can see from the packet now online that perhaps the original uploaded version didn't show this language in track changes, which is described in the agenda bill. There are now two versions in the packet, okay. One showing blue underscore track changes language, and the other more of a clean version. But all of those items are in there, and I think the superintendent is here and is ready and able to address the committee. We're happy to take any questions. As I indicated, the superintendent and the district's attorney were very cooperative and collaborative and have indicated their support for these changes.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and ask if there's any public comment on this issue. No? Okay. In that case, council members, Councilmember Benson, did you have questions or did you want to speak to this point?
Yeah. Where is the, I see Article 2A district obligations. I'm sorry, my computer's been out of service for a little bit, so I'm just trying to locate the, oh, here it is. Nope, no, I'm not seeing it.
Article 2A is probably
Page 7.
Or 13 of the packet.
Yeah. Okay. I love this. I think this is great. This definitely addresses all of the concerns that I had, and I'm glad that the district's on board with it. Sounds like everything's understood, which I think is the whole point of an MOU. So, thank you for going through the legwork on that and getting it done.
Okay. Councilmember Watson.
I'm good with where we're at.
Okay. And I'm just scrolling through to make sure, because I know that Mayor Pro Tem Holloway had two questions. So when I listened to the recording of the meeting, he'd also indicated that it was his hope that the Snoqualmie Valley School District would also be involved with the written evaluation. Was that language added as well? It was. Okay.
Sure, there's a slight change, and if I just take a moment to scroll to it, and I can give the chair a reference on page 2. It's an article Roman numeral 1 C, evaluation of the SRO. We can and just all we did there was just to broaden the discussion of the reference to feedback to include both written and oral.
Okay.
We could say more there if the council had a desire, but I think it's understood by both parties.
Okay.
The way this process might work.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Councilmember Watton.
Would Superintendent Schlotfeld like to, since he's here, have a few words to say and share? We don't always get this opportunity face to face, so
Thanks
thank
for
you.
having me. I don't know if you probably are aware, school districts around the state are, the financial health of a lot of our districts is something that we're a little bit worried about, and districts unfortunately are having to cut SRO contracts. Many districts surrounding us included. So where we stand as the Snoqualmie Valley School District is we value the SRO. We believe it's an important part of building our community, keeping our kids safe, and also it's a teaching opportunity as well as it's providing a resource for our students, that our police officers are important pieces of our community. And we hope to continue that relationship and feel that this is very important for our students and our community as a whole. That's all I really have to say. It's been fantastic working with the team. They've been very flexible, and we've all tried to collaborate and be on phone calls and meetings when we can. So I appreciate the feedback from the council as well. I think some of those things maybe we just didn't consider and were good catches. So appreciate that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. With that, council members, are you comfortable putting it forward for the city council agenda for next week?
Yes.
Yep.
I think it's if I may, it's very important that people know that this community cares about kids, and it's just another way our police officers can reach out to the community and to make those connections and perhaps maybe find an officer for us in the future as well. So having that resource officer is really critical for our community. So appreciate the district's support of the program.
Absolutely. All right. In that case, moving on, the next item of business,
Yep.
City Attorney.
Would that be consent?
Yes,
All right, thank you.
unless there's any concerns. Should we pull it off?
I'm thinking that given the curious nature of the council, to put it on the regular agenda for discussion, further discussion.
I'm agreeable with that.
Give Councilman Holloway an opportunity to address the changes that were made based on his feedback. So
I'm agreeable to that. All right, moving on. The next item on the agenda is AB 23-051. This is the public parking ordinance. This agenda bill requests approval for an ordinance allowing permit parking near the Panorama apartment complex. Captain Lynch.
Afternoon. Thank you for having me. I am yet again here in front of you to speak about our favorite topic, parking issues on Frontier. While we get the presentation going, I just need to give you guys a heads up that there was a couple of slides that were adjusted today. And I added one slide so your numbers on your packets won't line up to what is on this. It's been saved to the folder now, but just in case you had any questions. Okay, so the numbers that you see before you, the parking related complaints that we've received over a 2-year period on Frontier in the area of Ash and Nye Avenue, I can tell you that while they are extremely high for that small of a neighborhood, at 98 calls for service when I made this slide at the beginning of the month and 133 police responses, those are probably extremely low as well. Not all of our officers will handle a parking complaint the same, and they may clear it prior to changing the code. So it makes it a little bit more difficult to search. And also in speaking to the residents in that area, they are only calling on a fraction of the calls that they could be making. So while we're looking at like a 3 or 4 block area, the calls for service at 98 and then the police responses for 133, by far, that's our parking issues in the city. We don't have any other neighborhoods that are even that close. The difference between the police response and the calls for service, the calls for service are actual 911 calls that are coming in. And then when an officer goes out there, we don't always complete the call in that one time. We'll have to come back in the next day, see if the car is moved. We tag a car. We're working with the owners of the vehicles to get it moved. So that's why there's more police responses than there are for calls for service. So if you remember, I was here back at the end of November or early December, and we were talking about the parking problems up there and the need for some relief for these residents in this neighborhood. And at that time, we had mentioned that we were going to be looking at a residential permit parking program. And on the whole, the council seemed very interested in learning more about that. And it was something that that I was encouraged by, the interest that you guys showed. So I've been working on that, and Officer Mandry and I have been pulling numerous city ordinances, the policies and the procedures that they run their residential permit parking with. And we've kind of morphed it into something that we think that is doable for the city of Snoqualmie. The ordinances on larger cities don't fit us. So we had to take what we liked out of those and come up with something that that was workable for us. So on the next slide, you can see the current 24-hour parking ordinance. And we're familiar with that from the last time I was here talking about parking. It's great, but it doesn't cover the problems that we're having in this neighborhood because there's no language in there that says that they have to move it off the block or they have to move it a certain amount. It's just that they have to move. And the cars that we're seeing up there, you know, it's kind of like a Tom and Jerry cat and mouse game. They know that we chalk a tire, we put a sticker, they move it a foot. That satisfies this 24-hour ordinance. Did it really affect anything of change and to bring closure to an incident that the resident called us for? Not at all. So it's just basically moving problems around. We can go to the next slide. So the proposed parking permit policy, once I started writing the actual ordinance and the language for the ordinance, there were a ton of issues that we came up with that we had to think about. Unintended consequences, how the program going to run. So I started putting down my thoughts, and we've come up with some policy language that some of it is in the ordinance that you have before you. Others will be kept at the educational level for handouts that we can give to the tenants and to the people that are living at the apartment complex. But my view of this is that there's going to be a residential permit parking zone, or an RPZ. And for the houses that are designated inside that zone, they would have to register their vehicles with the police department, and we hand them a sticker for their cars. And the sticker has a number on it that we track. And I'll show you pictures here of it in a minute, the ones that we've picked out. And it would go on the front windshield, lower left driver's side. So we can drive down the road and see, okay, that's sticker, 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 no sticker. Now we have something to look at, and maybe we find out what's going on with that vehicle. The visitors parking. So we know that with parking being so short-handed up there, it's feasible to believe that people will have relatives that want to come visit, friends that come over for dinner. Each of these houses will be given 2 of the temporary style. Oops, sorry. They're kind of like the Discovery Pass, the ones that we've chosen. And it says City of Snoqualmie, and it's a visitor's parking pass. And they'll be able to give that to their friends or family that are coming to visit, and they can park on the road, and they would be well within this ordinance to do that. We go to the next one. So we had to find a way of verifying that these people are actually living in that RPZ zone. And we came up with some ways that that they can show us that they deserve one of those stickers. Having, you know, proof that you're a current resident at that address. We will verify those addresses to make sure that they are in that zone. You know, you can see a number of different ways that that we can verify their location, and at the bottom one is any documentation deemed by city staff that would prove that, ones that we're not thinking about on that list and that they have. So we can go to the next slide. So in anticipation that this will get passed in some form or another, word's going to get out that we now have this program. And so I came up with some ways for expansion, new requests for neighborhoods that maybe, you know, thinking that they need this. The way that ordinance is written, the decision lies solely with the mayor or their designee. And there would be input from the police department. Data would have to be gathered with how many calls for service we're having. But there's a couple of different ways that we can do this. So if you are a neighbor to, you know, I'll show you a picture of where my thoughts are for the initial RPZ. If you want to extend, then we have to show that your block is adjacent to that existing RPZ, and that 75% of those spaces are being taken up on a daily basis, and that 60% or more of the neighbors in that block that you want it to extend to actually want this. So I'm not going to push this on a neighborhood unless they are a party to it, that they want to be a partner with us in this. And then if it's a totally different, neighborhood, they're going to have to submit in writing a request that comes from the neighborhood council, the HOA, or the group that, if they don't have an HOA, they can come up with a majority of the people that live in that neighborhood and articulate how and why they want this. I've got it written in the policy language that it would be, you would have to show a need by showing us that there is a significant traffic generator there. In the case of Frontier Avenue, they have the most significant traffic generator of parking in our city right now, and that's the Panorama Apartments. So that was an easy one to do. I can think of one more neighborhood that may want to do this off a Better Way at the end of the parkway. Their parking back up in there for residential is pretty tight, and I can see that maybe someday that they would want to apply for a residential permit parking. So we can go to the next one. So this slide has the actual language of the proposed ordinance and how it would read. There's a couple of things in the ordinance that I want to bring to your attention that I want to have an open dialogue with you about to find out what your thoughts are. And the majority of the cities that have this only issue 2 parking permits per household. And I'm not sure, it says 2 in the ordinance as it sits right now, but I don't know in my heart if I'm landed on that number, as a final resting spot. Is speaking to some of the people that live up there, they may have kids that are driving now, and now you have a husband and wife and a 3rd car or a 4th car if you have 2 kids driving. So that might be something that we need to look at to adjust the language on. Also, in your packet, and I don't think it's going to be up on the screen here, we put in a sunset clause on this because I want this to run as a program that we're going to look at as we go to find out if we're hitting the target on what we're doing. If there are unintended consequences that we cannot foresee, and now it's created more problems, we'd be able to come back to you and say, look, this isn't working. So we have it down as from the date that it would be passed and go into effect, that it would expire in 2 years, which would trigger us to come back to you and say, look, this is a great program. We're having great success. We need to make this permanent, or we need to not do this anymore. Go to the next one. So here's your map. So this, you can't even, all the trees down at the bottom left corner, that's actually the apartment complex now. So Google Earth is not caught up to you guys at all. So the main road coming off of Jacobia is Frontier Avenue that runs right into the entrance of the Panorama Apartments. And while we have the majority of our 911 calls along that road over that 2-year period, it does spill up into Ash and Nye, and then down on, what's the one? I can't even see that. What is it? Elm, that's right. So I did really good with knowing the other ones though. So our thoughts with having this initial area in red is that it will have consequences where now they no longer can be in that area. They're going to push out a little bit further. And knowing that, once we start getting complaints that are outside of that area, it might be that we need to come back and extend that area a little bit to see. I don't know where the sweet spot is that somebody won't walk. I don't know if it's a mile. I don't know if it's a half mile.
Councilmember Benson.
Yeah, on Frontier there, do all of those homes have garages or driveways?
You could probably speak to that.
Yeah, so
majority of it on Frontier, that the center line there, we all live in on the alley, so we all have garages, but very, very small driveways.
And they're in the garage is in the alley access garage.
Yeah, so like my driveway is so small, I can parallel park my car to get in there. So I can only have one car either in my garage or on my driveway. So right there, my wife, find street parking, and I have $2 a drive, so. But yeah, and I think it's that way for majority of us.
Right.
So, sorry, gentlemen, for just 1 second. If you're going to come up, I'd love to be able to get this caught on the microphone so that anyone who wants to listen to can come up. So if you're speaking, if you could just come up for a minute, just say your name so that we know who you are. And then really we'll focus on taking some additional public comment once the Captain Lynch is finished with this presentation. I'd love to hear from all of you, but yeah, just we need to make sure that we can catch it on the microphones.
Well, I think we answered this question for me.
Yeah, I can finish and then you'll have a chance. So the on the north side of that picture there, the line that cuts off from the rest of the neighborhood, that's an actual like a walk alley area. And so that I used as a natural barrier just to start out. If I can get anything through on this message, it's a fluid thing. I am not sold and married to the way that it's written. I will be more than happy to take in your considerations on it, your concerns, and the concerns of the people that are actually going to be affected by this. We go to the next one, I'll show you the monetary cost to it. So those are the three things on the bottom there. The visitor pass actually hangs in the window, and the blue sticker in the middle goes on the windshield. And then the sign on the right, I've spoken to Mike Chambliss, and apparently we are in the sign making business for the city now. And so it'll be, minimal cost for that. But that was something that we've come up with for posting. Per the ordinance, we have to post it to where it is, there's enough signage that it's going to be obvious that you're in that zone. So the way that
Captain Lynch.
Oh, sorry.
Just a quick question. So I see that these are the hard costs that we'll incur. Do we know who would actually be running the administration or the administrative portion of this?
As long as we keep it as a free to the public, then I would be happy holding all of these at the police department and having us track the numbers and issue them. The problem comes into if we start charging, and that opens up a whole different realm where we're taking payments, and it would probably have to go somewhere down here to City Hall if we did that. I tried to keep the cost as low as possible, but to have stuff that looks good, and nobody wants to put an ugly sticker on your car. These stickers are meant for long-term being on a window. They're of high enough quality, but the stickers cost 86 cents per, and you can buy them at 500 at a time for $430. And then the most expensive is the visitor's pass at $1.20. Which would be for 500 of them, $604. So we're talking $1,034.50 for 500. And like I said before, it's 89 houses that we've counted that would be in this initial zone. I would hope that we could stay within the 500 for this initial zone. We would have to find, if we start to expand, if we go to different neighborhoods, then we're going to have to find other funding for that. And that's the last slide that I have. So I think that I have done an excellent job, and you probably won't have any questions, but if you do, I am here for you. So
okay. Thank you. Councilmember Benson.
How many houses are in the affected area? How many houses?
The ones along that red zone?
Yeah.
89.
89. And we're, so with 500 passes, then you're talking about an average of over 5 per household.
Yeah, which is probably high.
Yeah. I have a multi-generational house where we have 6 drivers and 6 cars, which I don't think is typical. But
My
I
opinion
can't.
is that we'd have to add some sort of language that would trigger that ability to get more than two. It's not fair if, you know, I've got two students that are driving now. And I mean, I've got two nasty looking cars that come park in my driveway because that's what they can afford. And I don't have a place to park them. If I was in that neighborhood and I'm only getting two, then that would be an issue. I feel like that's low. But I also, if we start doing 5 or 6 per house, then it's going to cost more money. And we have to, as a committee and as the police department in the city, we have to be on the same page with knowing that that's a possibility and be committed to making this program work for the 2 years that I'm asking for.
Councilmember Watton.
Just point of order. I do want to hear from all the residents. It's wonderful having people actually show up to our meetings. So, but given the number that may want to, I'd ask that we limit that to maybe 1.5 minutes per person to allow enough time to get through everyone. And we probably have a lot to discuss as well.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Do we need to do it?
We can't hear you when you're covering it up.
It'll
So.
take us a minute to figure this out.
Yeah. Physical sign up.
Oh, no, just their name and then city. They're gonna need address, but.
All right. In that case, are there any residents in City Hall who would like to come up?
It's gonna be 1 minute or 2 minutes.
I think standard is two
It is
minutes.
two.
Let's go ahead and give 2
I'll
minutes.
make this quick. I personally want to thank the police department because they've done a dynamite job. This has been going on for a couple of years.
Name
Oh, I'm
and-
sorry,
yeah.
Craig Phelan.
Okay.
I
Thank
live
you.
on the
Live in
corner of
Frontier.
Frontier and Elm and Ash because anyways. So this has been a huge issue for pre-COVID. I want to say it was Memorial Day weekend. A couple of years ago, they changed it from open parking in the panorama to like a funded parking for them. And it just drastically changed everything. For me, it's a lot of security issues. So, you know, my daughters come home late, you know, they work in the service industry. So they're coming home at night, they're parking, you know, all the way down towards Gene Hansen, you know, at 9 o'clock at night. So, you know, being able to have that designated parking where they could come in, they could be close to home. You know, my wife being close to home help even me, not having to walk a block would be great. Not doing the car shuffle. Oh, hey, an open spot opened up. Let me move it from the driveway out to the street. And then, you know, if we're coming back late, we don't have to worry about it. You guys have anything? Really? I mean, I think again, it's just been an ongoing issue of just, you know, housing values going down because it's hard to sell a house. You can't, you know, have parking out front to show a house. I know one of our neighbors had that issue. So I guess that's kind of it for me. I think they did a great job covering it. So I'll leave this up to anyone else that wants to talk.
All right.
So, but thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to come on?
Probably take a minute. Thanks. So my name is Pranu and I live right on the hotspot where Craig and I will live on Frontier 9424.
Okay.
And I'm going to make it quick because I think I've said a lot. And once again, thanks a lot for helping us. Police department has helped us a lot to get to this point. So specifically, I want to share one instance with you. It's not going to take that long, but will really help you to understand what is the problem that we are facing. It was Christmas of 2021. This was just a month later when I bought this amazing $1 million house. And I moved from Bellevue thinking that I'm going to get parking spots wherever I want to park because I have a garage now and I can park and I can have my friends come over during Christmas. So this is Christmas and we are kind of celebrating and everything. And I find a truck filled with garbage just parked right in front of my door, like right on front of my door. I have no idea. Thanks, Craig, for helping me understand this parking situation because obviously the previous owner never told me so. What happens now is I have a pregnant wife. We bought this house because my wife was pregnant. We were expanding family. And she comes back from shopping and finds there is literally no place to park. And if some of you remember, this was 2021, December, when it was snow everywhere. It was so hard to kind of even walk from your door inside. And this 8-month pregnant woman comes and finds no parking on the street, and she has to park close to Jean Hansen and walk all the way to my door. And just literally, I was feeling so bad on that day because I thought I have dream house now and most of my parking problems have been solved. And then just the thought of that woman kind of walking all the way on a slippery kind of sidewalk, it was super, super disheartening. And just one thing, that specific truck that I'm talking about, it was parked there right from 23rd of December to 3rd of January. And my wife didn't want to call anyone just purely because she saw a man with a really little girl parking that car like on 23rd, and she did not want to spoil their Christmas. So just want to let you know, like the kind of situations that we are facing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Well, thanks for having me. My name is Jeff Grunwald and I live on Elm. And I'd just like to say Elm, you can't see it now, but the way that's situated is when Frontier fills up, which is quite often, we get the overflow from Frontier. And on Elm, you can only park on one side of the street, so it fills up rather quickly. Most of the people on Elm have multiple cars. And kind of like you, some are multi-generational families and have multiple vehicles parked there. So they need the space. Yes, there is an alley access, but those driveways are not large enough to accommodate. There's obviously a slew of other things that occur up there that I'm sure you're aware of, but the main thing right now is just deal with the parking. I heard the police department, they're doing a great job, and they spoke about the small cost of $1,000. If you put that in comparison to the man hours that they put in going up to the neighborhoods, I'm sure $1,000 is a pittance.
Yeah.
So I just would like to appreciate you having me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, thank you. Hi, my name's Mike Annie. I also live on Elm. I'd like to also thank the police department for their help and their work. My experience is very similar to Jeff. I live on the same side as Elm, and similar to Craig, I have this is safety security concern. People can't visit. My mother-in-law, my parents, when they visit, it's difficult to find a spot, and they have to walk long distance just to get to my own home. So thank you for having me here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity for the police department, for the council. I'm Debin Prabhu. I live in Frontier Avenue next to Craig and Pranav. I have a 6-year-old. Until last year, because of thanks to COVID, we had survived on a single car. Now I bought a second car. Even for school runs, I cannot pick up my daughter in the front of the Frontier Avenue. I have to come to the back alley, open the garage. I have to go through so many things for a simple task of just picking our daughter, or even doing a shop run, which we can't do, especially in summer. It gets crazy. As others said, we have to go far to find a spot. Our in-laws live just a few streets away. They are like, they have to walk from Jean Hansen. Sometimes they just leave the car and walk home. So it would be great if we can implement some programs like this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? All right. Wonderful. Thank you all for coming. I do appreciate the feedback. It's wonderful to have you all here. And I'd encourage you to stay involved. It's quite helpful. Councilmember Benson.
I had a question for Captain Lynch. And I've been down Elm and the surrounding streets, but I don't remember specifically. I'm sure that it's been considered, but I'd like it on the record. There's no possibility that we could open parking on both sides of the streets, or are there any streets where that could potentially be expanded to parking on both sides of the street, or is it just too narrow?
Unfortunately, I don't think I can give you a definite answer. It would have to be something that we would talk to Mike Chambliss about as well for safety reasons. I'm not sure if it would violate a code for having, cars parked on a narrow street, or so I don't really know that answer. I think it would be worth considering. but I'm not sure if we would be able to, for those reasons. It is
Right.
pretty tight in there, so.
I think that would be a really helpful question to have an answer
I can
to.
definitely find out.
Alternatively, if we could put street parking on both sides and maybe do one way, that may help address some of the situation as well.
Or potentially a both and if because I mean, talking about housing values, if there's a way for us to figure out a public would be able to maybe bring some relief to that neighborhood, it might also alleviate that.
Sure. I did want to tell you though, something that I forgot, and it was, we specifically put this in the ordinance. When I was here back in early December or late November, we spoke about what we do when we respond to these and the lengths that we go to prior to impounding a vehicle. If and when this is passed, I would instruct our officers to have a 30-day education period. We're going to be reaching out to the apartment complex to get out flyers about the ordinance and what they can and can't do. And after that 30 days, there's specific language in the ordinance that says, yes, we can impound. However, we still have to tag for 24 hours. It's not something that we see a violator and we call a tow truck right away. Don't those safeguards that we're still going the extra mile. We're trying to reach somebody prior to impound because we're not in the business of adding stress and difficulties to people's lives. But at the same time, we have to have something on the books that would help us help these people here. So I hope that helps with knowing that.
That's what we're wanting.
I've got a laundry list of things, and I don't want to spend all of our time on my laundry list other than to go through them very quickly and we can make notes and come back. I don't want to delay this process any further than it's already been delayed. I deeply appreciate the residents being here to share their perspective, and I strongly encourage you to one, write the council members with your concerns because it just helps to underscore the importance of doing this. And two, when it does come to council, we need you here as well because that will help convince the other council members how important it is. But these are the things that I have. First of all, I'd like for this to be a public process. I know that it's written with the mayor's intent, and I know that the mayor has great intent, but I'd like to have the opportunity for residents to come and say, wait a moment, my neighborhood isn't included. I'd like to have it included in the future or whatever it might be, or maybe this is the wrong thing to do. The other one is addressing the 2-car limit. I think that we need to come up with language to make it more flexible. I've got 4 drivers and 4 cars in my neighborhood, in my household alone. The other one is the decal needs to be for Snoqualmie only. So if we just drop off North Bend until they come along and do their own, I think that they should be like color coded for the neighborhoods so that we can identify those. I'd like to see, instead of a 2-year review, or a 2-year review instead of a sunset, that modified every 2 years or so. And then the other one is visitor pass. I think that we could probably do that online where people could submit their license plates associated with the household is good for 24 hours or 48 hours so that we don't have the administrative costs of issuing a visitor's pass would be the other concern. That's it. That's the end of my shopping list.
Well, that gives me a lot to think about and to work on, but I will, I can check with IT about how difficult that would be to set up. I do like the idea though, that if it's one less thing that we have to control, then that would be great.
Yeah. Councilor Benson. And
I just had 2 suggestions. One on the sign that is going to go on this, it said residents only. I think that could be ambiguous to people who are residents of Panorama and are parking there because it's the nearest parking for them. So I think you'd need to be a little more specific about what is meant by residents.
Okay.
And the other thing that it seems to me that if a family has multiple cars registered and they can connect them to their household, they should be able to get a parking pass for each of those vehicles. That just seems reasonable to me, that people shouldn't get sunsetted out of two of their cars, or, you know.
I agree.
Do you think that we can move this conversation on to the next public safety meeting? Do you think that you'll need additional time to go through what's been asked at this point?
No, I can definitely get it for the next public safety meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
no
that
problem
that
at
would
all.
be my preference, as long as the council members are in favor, just because I do want to be sensitive to the fact that we do have a matter from fire as well that we need to get through on the agenda. And just that we'll need additional information and obviously need additional study on this matter to bring it forward. But I do think that it's very important. It's parking is a huge issue. And I do think that we need to find a solution for everyone. So,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
thank you. All right. In that case, the next item on the agenda is Agenda Bill 23-053. This is the quarterly fire accreditation report with Deputy Chief Bailey.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. I just want to point out that although this is listed as an agenda bill, that was done under a previous city clerk that required this to be agenda bill. So in discussion with the city staff going forward, this probably just needs to be a discussion and can be added to the regular council meeting, just so it could be added to their agenda packets. But for now, this one is going to be an agenda bill because it was already created that way. Just wanted to go over a couple things. I don't know, I can just hit a couple of the highlights as we go through this. This is included in your packet. For incidences, so far this year, we're up to 338 at the end of March. Last year, we were at 347.
Do we have someone that can screen share?
Yeah, Deanna should have a copy of it. Just a second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
6.
There we go. You might just want to make it just a tad bigger so they can see some of the charts. If you scroll down to where it says incidences or incidents. No, you can keep going. I'll talk about that. I can just talk about that. Keep going down to where it says incidents. There you go. In regards to the work plan, that was from the previous, those were all goals and objectives from the previous strategic plan. That's just about exhausted, and Chief Carrera will be working on, it's part of our accreditation, creating a new strategic plan for the fire department, and we'll get some new goals and objectives once that's created. So I didn't want to waste time necessarily on that piece, but you can see it in your packet. So there for incidents, you can see, I know it's kind of hard there, but the two lines that are really close together there, that would be 2023 and 2022. So we started out, they're pretty much the same call for month. We had a drop in March by, 15, 20 calls in March, but then it kind of made up for in the other months. So really where we're at is, what I was starting to say is, this year so far at the end of March, we're at 338 calls. Last year we're at 347. So we're just a touch under, not really, it's only a few. So we can scroll down to the next page where we talk about the incidents with the graphs. So we can bring both of those graphs up. The first one there, I went ahead and added so you can see what happened in 2022 versus what's going on in 2023. And again, that's just a pie chart that shows where our call volume is, what type of call we're responding to. Again, the majority is going to be your EMS. That's the biggest color there. And then the rest of them are distributed amongst fire, false alarms, good intent calls, service calls, and then hazardous conditions. Those numbers have stayed pretty much the same, but I just put both so you can kind of compare for our up to this year, and then also so you can look at next year. Scrolling down again, you can see our mutual aid instances. This has changed a little bit. I think this mainly this is reflective of, we had more calls in the first quarter of other units coming into the city. So that's why you see the aid received number has gone up a little bit, as well as the aid given has gone down. But again, we're just talking about 300, this is just a quarter of our calls. So as we go throughout the year, you'll see that probably balance back out again to where it was at the end of last year, which is on the right-hand side. The next thing to point out, scroll down 2 more pages there for our performance measures, shows the graph. This one right here. Again, just scroll up a little bit more there. Okay. So you can see this, I know the numbers are small, but again, this is in your packet to look at. You can see the first couple of numbers there. The majority of our calls for our turnout times, we're getting out within 1:30. And on the bottom there, you can see a difference between 21, 22, and 23. Our 90th percentile for response, we're at 136, which is the lowest we've had in the last couple of years, or it's tied with another month on their second quarter of last year. So we're getting out of the station really good. That's one thing we can control with our staff by just being aware of it. We've done a really good job of, over the last year or two, having the officers be aware and working with their crews to get them out the door a little bit quicker. So that's staying down nice and low. The next page, this just talks about our response times. Again, with our travel times, this isn't something we can really make a difference to other than building a new fire station, for example. The times are set. We're only allowed to go 10 miles over the speed limit, and that's even if conditions allow. Most of the time, we don't even go over the speed limit just because it's not safe with the traffic and the weather conditions. Yes.
So I just had a quick question. When we're looking at the apparatus travel times, does that include when we are giving mutual aid?
Yes, that number is included, and that's what you're going to see the
30 minutes.
The bottom columns. Yeah, the 30 there. That had to do with a call from the MIH group that came into the city. That when we look at it overall with our numbers, that usually gets taken out because of it's considered a anomaly. Isn't the right word? It's a
outlier.
Outlier. Thank you.
Okay.
I knew it was there. But yeah, when you start getting down to the 12-minute response times and over, that's usually because we're responding to North Bend or Fall City. So this includes the whole area. The ones up there, the first 3 columns, going down this way are usually the responses in the city. Okay. I think we talked before, and we talked about the fires. That one back corner, way off the back of McCullough, is usually it's about 7 minutes, 8 minutes response time. That's pretty our farthest area in the city, back in that back corner. Fire inspections, we can slide past the fire inspections one. That just shows the number of where we're at. Again, it has the graph in there that shows where our common violations are seen. That's pretty on par with where we've been. That just shows that the crews have done 61 this quarter. Numbers a little bit low, but that's mostly because they've been dealing with a lot of training with our probationary firefighters, with our 4 probationary firefighters we have. So that's taken up a little bit of their time. And then the last slide we have on there, property loss and save. Scroll just up a little more so we can see the annual property save part. There we go. So that's the fires that we've had in the city so far this year. We've had 4. The first one there was beginning of January, and then the other 3 were the ones that were off at Nye. So you can see the loss there. Generally, we're looking at, and again, these are general figures. The insurance numbers probably would be higher than that, but these are the figures that we have a policy that talks about. We use the property value from King County assessors, as well as a percentage for the to account for the contents, a 5% contents. So you can see the numbers there, what they're estimating for the loss of the one house that was in January, the end of January, and then the 3 fires that were off in Nye. So you can see our property risk and our property save, that percentage has gone down a little bit from where we were up in the upper 90s last year. We got with those 3 fires and a lot of damage that was done in the Nye Street fire. That's brought that down a little bit, but hopefully we'll be able to get that back up when we get back to our normal type of fire that we do see here in Snoqualmie, where we usually are there pretty quick and get it knocked down without the great loss of damage. Again, that's all. That's the report that I have. If you, as you're going through, if you have any other questions, if you want to know about some of the pieces of it, I can, or how we got to some of the numbers that we did, let me know and I can fill you in, or if there's any questions this evening. Yes.
I did have one more. So in reviewing the incidents, the chart that was provided, it seems like there's always a decrease in the first quarter of the year, January, February, March. Is there a reason for that? Because it seems pretty consistent through every single year.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I've looked at it and I can't really come up with anything specific. I mean, it's obvious to tell when we go up in the fall, or excuse me, in the spring, because of the more visitors to the city, once it's nicer with the falls and that, but I haven't really been able to find anything that would be standing out as to why there would be a drop for those couple months. There's nothing that I've been able to pick up on yet as a specific reason. I don't know if Chief Carrera has been able to see anything, but from what I've understood, there's no specific incidents I could point to as to why it necessarily goes down, other than, you know, it's earlier in the year and it's colder out. You don't have as many people outside recreating. And so the numbers could be down because of that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any further questions or comments?
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
All right. In that case, it looks like there are no other additional items on the agenda. So in that case, is there Councilmember Watson?
There's one item that at some time during the year, it would be nice to have a joint meeting with the City of North Bend's at least Public Safety Committee, since we share police department with. So I just put that out for some consideration between you and the mayor.
Okay. Thank you.
Good idea.
Yep. All right. In that case, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Then we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.